Testing 1.
Testing 2.
Testing 3.
Testing 4.
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 There we go.
That's it.
Yeah. Nobody's ever asked me to make sperm exciting.
But
This is a new challenge.
but it is.
Yeah.
But it is.
People don't know what to say. They say the wrong thing. It isn't just a female problem. Things have changed a little bit. What hasn't really changed is the way in which male infertility is managed. And I think that's been very slow off the mark.
So from your experience, kind of what gets missed then in that kind of process?
Everything.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Big statement.
There we
right
go.
there.
That's a real big one. But, if
Everything gets missed.
Both of you have struck at the psychological effect of the fertility unit. This is an extraordinary thing if we just reflect upon it, because nowhere else in medicine is the outcome of an intervention, a big intervention, expensive intervention, absolutely binary. There is nothing between success and failure, joy and misery. I think we are not good, actually, at handling that proposition from the word go. And so it's human nature then to hide in the process, which is exactly what Toby was saying. So we won't even look at the man because actually we don't know anything about men, and we don't believe that anything to do with him will make any difference. But we can talk about why that is, because there's a basis for that. It's not, this isn't stupidity. So we won't look at him because to engage means he'll ask me a question and I won't know the answer, or I'll have to make it up, or he'll challenge me about having a test that we don't have available. So better actually not to look at him.
I sort of realised after a few months that it was all about the women and there was nothing about the men. And I was thinking, well, why is this? You know, why are we just looking at egg quality and we're not looking at sperm quality? Even if there is a male factor issue, it's kind of brushed under the carpet. I do really enjoy working with men because, again, sometimes we just have a laugh because they are dragged by the short and curlies in by their partners.
Literally.
Literally. The
Why
body
am I here?
language is hilarious in sometimes, you know, and the tension is quite kind of apparent. And I have to really relax them, and laughter is always the best way of relaxing. So sometimes I say, I can see that you've probably been dragged in, haven't you, in this? And he'll go, yep. and then I have to try, it doesn't always work, but I have to try some kind of, it's a different approach with men.
Been a lot of increase of people talking about recreational drugs. I don't smoke, I vape, so that's okay.
that's all right.
Yeah. Have you seen the X-rays?
We've been practicing.
I practiced on the car all the way here like this. Testing 4.
I found morphology really strange at first because I remember, going back to my sex ed, you get a picture, cartoon of a sperm, and it's got a wiggly tail and a head that's kind of arrow shaped, and that's all we kind of knew. And then I remember chatting to, I think it might have been you or Ian, and talking about kind of morphology and the fact that they can have two heads and they can all be different shapes and sizes. I was like, really? Is this a thing? Is that a thing?
Well, I think what's fascinating with morphology, and this I've had guys that have been sort of knocked sideways with this, is when they read their results. And I mean, this is another part of the whole semen analysis thing, is that nobody actually explains the results to a guy.
What does it mean?
Yeah. Oh, it's normal. Well, what is normal?
Yeah.
And am I just normal or am I well above normal?
Yeah.
But that'll come in a minute, probably, that bit of the conversation. But morphology is when guys get their morphology and they're told it's 4%.
Yeah,
they're like, 4%, well, what does that mean? It means 4% of your sperm on the right shape.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on a minute, let me think about that. Let me turn that around the other way. That means 96% of my sperm are the wrong shape.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's
like, for some guys, that's like, oh my God, that's horrendous. No, that's perfectly normal. We are really inefficient, creatures.
Yeah, right.
The vast majority of your sperm, news to some of you guys, will be the wrong shape.
Yeah.
So actually 4% is normal.
We need to investigate the man. Now, when we're talking about a disease state, we're talking about medical conditions. Mm-hmm. And therefore, men should be investigated for medical conditions. So we actually have a moral duty to investigate people. Yeah. Because if they leave these conditions unattended, they can have serious consequences.
What we know from the advanced diagnostics that are available, that have got some form of validation, that guidelines are still way behind what we know in the academic or the scientific world. So, it's a matter of looking out and saying what else is out there, and it may not be in the guidelines for NHS reimbursement, but it doesn't say that those diagnostics are not available. They are often available, but they're just not as visible as we'd like them to be.
Now, since we've had DNA fragmentation testing, I think one can begin to see that better quality sperm produces a better quality outcome. Certainly a better quantity outcome. So the number of live births may well be the quality of those live births too. So we are in a different phase. But if the fertility units have ignored or eschewed the relevance of DNA testing, then it's going to be a little time before this becomes universally available.
We've seen quite a shift, to be fair, because Ian and I obviously have been working quite a lot in this space, raising awareness for male fertility from, certainly from my perspective as a patient voice. And I think we are seeing a bit more of a shift now, aren't we? Some of the guys that we talk to and making that awareness about these particular conditions, because we're giving men the voice and we're empowering them to actually go, yes, that might be me, that they're more likely to go and see a specialist. Because I think that certainly from my own background, I was aware of perhaps there was something going on, but I was like, I did the guy thing, I'm fine, don't need to worry about that, I don't need to see anyone. And we do that as men, don't we? We do. We often
hide away from
an issue
problems, don't we?
In health, and we often just bury our head in the sand and just go, I'll be fine tomorrow, it'll be okay. But actually in fertility, the outcome is absolutely life-changing for the better, hopefully. And so that's what we've got to do and empower men to actually get checked and
to not be scared and speak up.
I've got a good car analogy, actually.
Go ahead.
You wouldn't give it doesn't really work in today's electric car. I won't be able to use this very long and normal petrol, but I used to say, you wouldn't give your Aston Martin 2-star petrol and expect it to go properly, would you?
It's very true.
Almost bring it back to the racing in that when you put in a duff lap, you go back to the data, don't you? There have been some recently.
It's not the fuel.
But you go back to the data, don't you? Like, okay, hang on a minute. Where am I not doing the right things? I'm not braking right here. I'm not accelerating hard enough here. We tweak the car a little bit, and then it performs better. It's the same with sperm, isn't it?
It is, because if you look at a car, it's not just about the speed you're going. It's about the engine. It's about the brakes. It's about
the fuel.
And everything. So it's everything has to be in tip-top shape if you're going to get the best result.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you want to have a child, you've got to not just focus on one thing and say, okay, that's my problem. Invariably, it's multifactorial.
So are we saying Cheryl is actually a sperm engineer?
I think she is. She's a data engineer.
We've rebranded Cheryl.
She's our clinical data engineer for male fertility.
Rename the clinic.
I like that. Sperm engineers.
What was it like for you? Because you didn't reach out for support, did you, at the beginning?
Not at all. No, not at all. I mean, I barely reached out to support to my parents, and I'm very close to my parents. I think early days, if I kind of rewind to probably maybe 2 years into fertility treatment, I just had this whole, it'll be all right, I'll be fine. But I literally just buried my head in the sand, ignoring all of the kind of alarm bells that were going off my head. Almost ignoring my partner's emotions to some extent, because I was trying to tune out of everything and just go, yeah, it's all right, I'll be fine, just doing the lad thing. But that was just a massive wrong move and a spiral of emotions that led me down a pretty dark path, to be fair. And when I finally came to terms with, we're actually struggling and this is actually a thing, oh mate, it was tough. It was really tough, because it was this whole kind of like idea that actually I'm in my mid-20s, approaching 30 years old. We've been trying for children for the best part of 4 or 5 years at this point, and I'm in a really bad place. And that was a really dark time for me. And I think the fact that I didn't I guess have the right support at the time was probably a big factor of that. I think I needed someone to give me a shove and say, Tobes, go and speak to this person, because I think once I'd kind of opened up, and obviously I became a racing driver and I used racing as my platform. which most of you will know that the Racing for Fertility campaign started, and that was a massively scary thing because I'd gone from not wanting to talk about it at all and to anyone without crying or without even getting angry or emotional or whatever, to here I am going to the media going, hey, I'm about to talk about fertility. This is blooming scary. Yeah. But the kind of roll-on effect from there on out has been...
Thank God you did, eh?
Yeah, it's been pretty special. So it's a good topic to talk about today, I think.
Because we're bringing it back into a normal space, aren't we? Into like, right, we can talk about this versus it's not just something that's for the elite or for the rich or for what have you, because there are so many pathways out there available to people of all different economical spaces, from all different parts of the country. Like it is available to you. It's just you just don't know it's available to you. You know, you just need to know exactly where to go, who to speak to, and just what support there is for someone like who have been victim to the things that we've been victim to, you know? Yeah.
We're getting distracted by somebody's phone ringing.
Yeah, it's my phone. I've got a new phone on my watch where it tells me when it's beeping away, and I can't switch it off, so apologies.
So there we go.
Mike was currently getting used to his tech.
Yeah.
We felt like you got us and you understood us and you listened to us. And I think those really simple things can completely change the kind of perception of what the outcome might be. And I think that when you diagnosed my problem, you was very realistic to say that this will improve, not guarantee. And that was a really nice thing, because it was actually like, this is a realistic outlook of what could happen. We are doing the right things. We are making the right steps forward. And then whatever the outcome would be, whether baby or not, at least we would then rest assured that we've done everything we could possibly have done at that point. So we was very, very grateful for your time when we saw you. And to this day, I mean, you've changed my life. And I think it's a really important point to say on this podcast. Thank you so much, Jonathan, because quite honestly, you have changed my life. And every guy, in my opinion, should come and see you or someone like you, because so many men are just silenced in this world of fertility, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, that's very kind of you, Toby. No, I'm a very embarrassed urologist with headphones.
Welcome.
Yeah.
There is clear evidence that as men age, they get into their mid-40s, sperm quality deteriorates. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about the things that you see under the microscope, but it's the molecular factors, the DNA, the genetic integrity of the sperm. We know that significantly deteriorates over time.
What is that reluctance? Why do men, why are they having to be dragged in front of you to talk to you about nutrition? Why do you think that is?
I think it might be partly because it's so female dominated anyway. That whole world is so female dominated, which again just brings me back to the fact that you guys have brought so much to this whole arena. It's women, I think it's the one job where being older is better, because I can kind of be bossy, motherly, matey, whereas if you're a 35-year-old guy, you don't want a 32-year-old woman telling you what to do about your sperm. You just don't want that. It's embarrassing. I think for men it's so personal. I mean, for women it's personal as well. It's horrible. You don't feel like a complete, like, it's so competitive, the whole baby thing anyway, all your friends having babies, and men don't really think about it until it sort of faces them, I think. And then there's a lack of belief in a way. It's unbelievable. You mean it's my sperm? I talk about food very kind of, I suppose, descriptively. I try and make things sound delicious and yummy and not
I'm wondering
horrible.
how on earth that plays out, like this lovely long green courgette. It's like Marks and Spencer's advert. This isn't any old
I know it does.
Piece of broccoli. Oh.
I haven't got any, here's the courgette. I want you to eat those.
What sort of consultations are you doing here?
Lovely big crunchy fresh salad with vibrant colours. I try and sort of make my language really tasty, and I say things like just make a really good chicken casserole, and of course you can have a steak, because men's food
we need meat.
likes are very different from women's. Actually, they're hilarious. You'll always get roasts, and you'll very often get pies and burgers, of course.
There was no pathway for me after that. It was literally right. You've got a low sperm count. This is what it is. You're not going to be able to have kids naturally. Here's our IVF leaflet, and then out the door.
Gosh.
How did you feel at that point?
I felt like vulnerable. I felt lonely. I don't want to say suicidal. I've never felt the word. I don't like the word suicidal, but I could feel like that was probably the closest to what that feeling would be. I didn't think, right, I'm going to find a tall building and jump off it, or I want to take a load of drugs. But it was just like a really horrible, lonely place to be. You know, you go to a place like that for answers, you walk out with more questions.
And no support.
No support other than your wife. And Tasha, bless her, like she's been like an unbelievable support like vessel for me. Through this whole journey, but it's like it's almost like, I don't know, like I'm not rich, but I've got money, you know. I'm not an athlete, but I've got good health, you know. I'm not like extremely happy, but I'm generally happy, you know. So like when it comes to health, wealth, love and happiness, like those four pillars are all satisfied. So you kind of go, right, what's next in life? And it's normally like, for some, it might be to have children, you know, like I had a challenging upbringing and you know, and that's for another podcast. But like, you just want to be a good father after that, don't you? Sure. You want to just, you want to be able to pass your wisdom and love something else that's more important to you. So in that moment, when that's taken away from you, just in that consultation room, it's like, you just feel so vulnerable with no answers. And Tasha's the whole journey back was, don't worry, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. We're going to figure this out. And I'm just like, and again, everything after that, for that whole rest of that day was just white noise. I just wanted to just find a dark corner and just disappear for like 6 months. I just wanted to just be gone.
The GPs often, I'm sorry to say, deliver it in the most horrendous way. I think they were saying, you've got a bunion, you need to go and have it taken off, you know. Oh, you've got male factor infertility. What? Yeah, referral straight to an IVF clinic.
Yeah. Takes a lot of guts actually to sort of challenge that status quo in a fertility clinic, because you know, you've got somebody there that has obviously trained for a very long time. You've come in there with the expectation that there's something that somebody can help with because you've been referred there in the first instance. And I think in my case, because I did know a little bit about male infertility and some of the conditions that I had gone through, some of the information I was hearing back was, this is inconsistent with what I know. This is not really how I would imagine this consultation to go on. I asked a few questions, and it was exactly how you described. It was, well, I'm the doctor. I know what I've seen lots and lots of patients like you, and this is what we do. And I'll go, okay. And you know, immediately you come out of that consultation going like, I'm really not happy with that.
Men are still the forgotten factor in fertility. And actually, most people, when you talk to, they still feel that fertility is a female issue. It's not a male issue. We know 50% of diagnosed cases is male factor. And we've talked a lot about, you know, unexplained infertility. And we think probably male factor is the underlying in that, but they've just not been tested properly. Yeah. So they are definitely the forgotten factor.
Sperm cells are very, very vulnerable. And one of the things that they're very vulnerable towards is attack from a reactive oxygen species. And what that is simply is oxygen radicals that are floating around in our body. And if they're in excess, they can create chemical reactions which actually impairs the sperm. And so reactive oxygen species is a very well-known phenomena which contributes in many ways to what we call sperm DNA fragmentation. So this is where the DNA integrity of the sperm becomes impaired.
I look at a lot of animal research, and actually that resonates very well. There's this bull in India, and the farmer has made it small fortune out of this bull because it's very famous for having the most fantastic sperm, and it gets the best food, it's on vitamins, it listens to music, it has massage, and it has the company of lady cows now and again, and it's completely spoiled rotten, but it's got fantastic semen. It's not rocket science, is it?
We started when we got married in June.
Maybe edit this bit out, shall we?
Yeah, snap this bit out. Tash, you didn't see this bit.
So I did a session about male factor to one of the companies, and I wanted to talk about smoking and drugs and things. And then I thought, I don't know anything about vaping. So let me go and do a little bit of research on vaping, because you see it now. Everyone's, you know, oh, well, I don't smoke, I vape. So that's okay.
That's all right.
Have you seen the x-rays? Yeah. So let's not go there. But what I read was where they've done a lot of studies is things like it's the flavouring. So you could have a non-nicotine vape, but the flavourings, a bubblegum flavour, apparently, sperm, boom, won't move. One of these
I've
studies.
heard that. Yeah, I think I've seen that.
Cinnamon stops it swimming. You know,
What the flavouring?
They think
actual
it's the flavouring.
No way, that's
could well be having an impact.
And Hong Kong did this study about e-cigarettes and the effect on fertility, and it was so bad that they banned them instantly.
You've gone there to hope that there's nothing wrong with your partner, right? Like the assumption, I don't know if it's a society thing, perhaps it is, perhaps it's the medicine world, but the assumption is there's going to be a problem with the female partner. Yeah. And so I think they're prepared for bad news. I think they go into it with the preparation that actually, there might be something wrong with me because I've had all these tests done. One of them's probably not going to be okay. But I think us guys, we walk into that room with just the perception of, well, I'll have sperm. Like, I'll be okay.
Like, do you think it's because they talk about it? Do you think it's genuine? I think part of that is because they actually talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, and us as men, we just don't talk about it.
No. But society doesn't make us believe that we would ever have a problem.
Yeah.
You know, you don't see, well, you do now because we exist, but you don't see much saying it's a male factor. It could be you. In fact, it's just as likely to be you as it is the woman. The whole industry, everything, education is all about female fertility. So you're walking down that corridor, you're just worrying about Tash.
Yeah.
You weren't thinking, oh, I wonder if it could be me.
Yeah. Because we've seen the sperm come out and we've seen it hit the cup. So we're like,
there's got to be something.
Done it. Do you know what I mean? Again, you know, so like you just look at, but you don't realise it's not that bit, it's what's inside that bit. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, just because there's sperm in the cup doesn't mean there's soldiers swimming. Do you know what I mean?
It's so true,
One of the things alcohol does is it stops estrogen clearance, and you always have to remind people estrogen is a female hormone. Men have estrogen, like women have testosterone, but in very small amounts. And most of the estrogen that people get now are from external sources, from things called xenoestrogens, foreign estrogens from chemicals, plastic, pesticides, toiletries, in our food, and phytoestrogens, things that are in soya, you know, different foodstuffs contain these estrogenic compounds. And you just have to remind men that alcohol shares the same liver pathways as estrogen, but it's preferentially detoxified before estrogen. So you get more of a retention of estrogen. The more you drink, the more you retain estrogen.
DNA fragmentation is the other type of test that you can do, which is really looking at how the base pairs of the sperm DNA integrity are structured. So what we know is that you can get single strand breaks, double strand breaks of the double helix.
And just to clarify, this is different to the oxidative stress test now, isn't it? This is a different type of test.
This is a different type of test.
Just looking at the DNA integrity within the sperm.
So what we're looking at is really the end point of the damage done by the reactive oxygen species. Because what we've got is a sperm cell which has been under attack, and then you have got this sperm cell which has got DNA in it, but it may be impaired. It may be impaired for both fertilization, blastulation, and actually creating an embryo. So we need to look at what is the quality index of that. How much has that structure been damaged, and that's what we call DNA damage or sperm DNA fragmentation.
And I suspect this is true of many specialties and many professions, many businesses even, which is that if you were going to stick to the evidence, we're talking about varicocele, and the evidence, in inverted commas, which defined NICE's views about not treating varicoceles. That evidence came from a publication which was called a meta-analysis, which is an amalgam of all the data out there. In about the early 2000s, 2004, 2005, which said that treating varicoceles didn't make any difference. Now, what, of course, happened, which was those who were the policy makers actually breathed a sigh of relief And they thought, oh, thank God for that. So all the gynecologists, that's something that we genuinely don't have to worry about. We can tell the patients there is no evidence that, and so we don't have to have a rummage in the scrotum. We can just forget all of that and carry on with the IVF. And government, the people who were producing money, also breathed a sigh of relief. They said, we take advice from the people doing the fertility, who are the gynecologists. If they tell us that the solution to this problem, this public health issue of infertility, is just to do IVF cycles, we will ask them, what does an IVF cycle cost? They will say, price and cost is a bit different, but £2,000 or £3,000. And we will say, the politicians, the funders, so how many succeed? And the gynecologists say, well, about 30%. So the politician says, oh, well, that sounds quite good. That's quite cheap, really. Wow. 2,000 or 3,000 quid for a 30% success rate. And he's, may not say, but he's also thinking, and these young people don't vote anyway. So good. Done deal.
Yeah.
I think if you can understand the physiology a bit, but in very kind of layman's terms of what your sperm actually is, this living cell that swims massively and needs all this energy and carries half the genetic material of your child. And so it's not just about fertilization, it's about making an embryo that turns into a healthy pregnancy and then a healthy baby at the end of it.
It's half of your genetics, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's important.
I remember when Ian, you helped me out with one of the tests that I had done. And I remember actually speaking to you about it and kind of like putting the phone down and saying to Katie, I'm properly scared about this. Like,
And that's with somebody you knew.
Yeah.
You don't know me that long, but...
Yeah, but what it was I wasn't scared about having the test done, because that was just, again, like another semen analysis. It was like, okay, I've just got to go and put some semen in another pot to fill up. And I'd kind of got over that, kind of like, okay, that's embarrassing, but oh well, we'll get on with
Expert pot filler by then.
Properly. Can we just note for this podcast, actually, the very, very first time I met Ian in the flesh, genuinely the very first time I met Ian in the flesh.
It's such a good story.
I shook his hand and also handed a pot of my semen, so it was a very welcome.
Well, to be fair, actually, what I remember is that, but also that it was actually tucked in Katie's bra.
It was to keep warm.
Yeah, to keep warm, which is really important.
Yeah.
But yeah, we stepped into the clinic and she pulled a pot of your sperm out from her bra. I was like, okay, awesome, nice to meet you, mate.
Nice to meet you, mate.
And a long-lasting relationship it's formed, isn't it?
That's it. We're like brothers now. It's,
we went for lunch on the seafront after that.
There you go, guys. Don't be worried about handing some pot of semen to someone. It might be a lifelong friend ahead of you.
And I mentioned to him about the small cyst, and he's like, okay, well, he goes, well, get him out then. And I'm like, what do you mean, like get them out? He's like, well, just do you need me to drop your pants? So he drops he puts the curtain around me, even though my wife's seen my balls like almost every other day. Do you know what I mean?
He's
so
super
like,
respectful like that.
Yeah. So he drops the balls and he's just like, these magic hands. He's just got his magic hands out and he's just literally cupping my balls like. Pause. I know I can't. So
for anybody that's not watching this, there's some great animation going on here.
Yeah. So like
you're taking me back right now.
Literally, he's just cupping my balls and he's like picking them up and putting them down and picking them up and putting them down. He's like, yeah. Can you cough? Can you cough? And I'm like, like this, and he's like, yeah. Yeah, I see what we're dealing with here. I'm like, okay, great. He goes, yeah, pull him up and we'll so we opened the curtains back up and he's just like, I think you've got a varicocele. And I'm like, oh, really? What, you and your magical hands think that I've got okay, great, but cool. I'm going to ride with that. He goes, if you just go across the corridor, we can go do an ultrasound now for you. He did got the gel out. Got the gel out, rubbing my testicles up. I've got this Indian guy rubbing my testicles now. And yeah, so he's just, he's doing his magic, and then he said, yeah. And I was like, is there anything there? He was like, yeah, there's a few bits there, but we'll explain it in the consultation. I was like, okay, great. But at that moment, I already felt safe because the speed from which we went from a consultation room to actually being assessed to then going back into the consultation room to get answers. Like some people in the NHS, you'd wait. You wouldn't get that in a year.
I was so nervous that day, so nervous. And I didn't need to be. As soon as I met you, I felt very, very comfortable. But it is something that is quite scary to accept there might be an issue, but also something that is quite intimate and quite a private thing, isn't it?
Well, it's really useful to me, Toby, to be reminded of that. You know, yes, it's easy for me to say I'm aware of it, but we need reminding because we I mean, the urologists, the specialists, we sort of forget to say the obvious, and we forget to say things that are so obvious to us.
Yes, you're doing it every day, aren't you?
Yeah, but are not obvious to the owner of the varicocele, because all of us think, oh crikey, I'm having a scan. Could find anything. Could be anything in there.
I would say, look on the back of look at the ingredients in what you're eating. If you can't recreate that in your kitchen, then don't eat it.
That's such a good rule of thumb.
Yeah, that's a great one.
If you don't understand what's in it, then don't buy it, because your body won't understand what this is. It's totally alien, these mountain of chemicals.
And obesity, of course. So actually, I've just written an article for our website about obesity, and that I was quite shocked, actually. I mean, I knew. It's like, it creates absolute hormonal inflammatory hell.
Absolutely does. That's a very good way of describing it. Yeah. Yes, you've got this process of, it's called aromatization, which is the conversion of testosterone to estrogen in the abdominal fat cells, because the abdominal fat cells are not like your other fat cells. You know, if you're lumbering around with too much fat on your bottom, it's going to put strain on your heart, on your knees, but it isn't actually going to do anything in itself. But abdominal fat is metabolically active. It has a life of its own. It's up to no good.
You had a varicocele, didn't
you?
you?
I had it. Yeah.
Did you go
You're taking me back. You're literally taking me back.
You got the same surgeon, haven't you?
I think we've got the same surgeon. Did you have Mr. Moses?
This is
Dr.
like
Moser?
top trumps, isn't there, right now?
Yeah.
There's no top trumps though. You're on an even par.
Well, I had bilateral. Did you have bilateral?
I did.
Oh, did you? Oh, man, he shot me down.
There's a fist bump.
Bilateral gang.
What we've got to think about is not just the sperm itself, but the factory of creating sperm. And the factory of creating the sperm is under the influence of our brains, funnily enough. So blood hormones are responsible for triggering the response to the testes to say, come on, guys, get working and produce some sperm, but they also produce testosterone. And there are sort of 3 or 4 main hormones, blood hormones, that are really important to check. So those types of blood hormones are things like follicle-stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone. These are often referred as female type hormones.
Both of those.
But those are produced by the pituitary gland and in the hypothalamus, and they trigger a natural sort of negative feedback mechanism to the testes to produce testosterone. So they have a direct trigger onto the Sertoli cells in the testes, and then they will then create testosterone. Testosterone is a negative feedback loop, so if there is enough being produced,
that's a break on the production, doesn't it?
It slows down the amount of follicle stimulating hormone, and the loop sort of continues. So there's about 3 or 4 main components that should be looked at, and if they're out of whack, then clearly there is either going to be a reduction in the amount of sperm being created, or there can be abnormalities in the shape of those sperm being created because they're not getting the right signaling, they're not getting the right hormone elements to it.
But is it really a thing? Because most guys be like, oh, come on, it's just a water bottle.
It's really a thing.
Yeah.
It's really a thing, and there's so many studies on it.
And why is that? What is it?
Because BPA and some of the other plastic chemicals, and we don't even know, there's probably BPB and BPC and BPD and all of that, but BPA is obviously the big one. They're estrogenic. We're back to these estrogenic. So their molecular structure is very similar to human estrogen. So these are your xenoestrogens. And because we're so exposed to them through drinking plastic, so even if you go and have your cup of coffee, takeaway coffee in every morning.
Yeah.
So every morning you're having a hot cup of coffee in a plastic cup, and heat accelerates the BPA out of the.
So it's going to leach.
It leaches out into the drink.
Up until that time, urologists were involved with seeing men who were subfertile or infertile, diagnosing what they could. Often that was a varicocele. overt infections, and treating them. The important thing is that from 91, 92, all the men were in the fertility units because ICSI was held as being a possible treatment for men with very low sperm counts.
Salad. You mentioned salad, and I really want to get this on record, because somebody we all know mutually has mentioned the Melanie Brown sperm salad.
Egg and sperm salad.
An egg and sperm salad.
Egg and sperm
egg and sperm aren't in it, right?
Oh, this is the thing, is it?
There is no egg and sperm. That normally elicits a sort of like...
What's that like?
Yeah.
She didn't say that. She couldn't have said that expression. Please, I'm here, but I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. You can see the thought process. You know, so I always say, no, it doesn't. One of my male clients, actually, about 15 years ago, called it egg and sperm salad because it's got ingredients in it that are just good for eggs and good for sperm. So the good for sperm things are watercress. You know, I'm mad about watercress. That's why I say, you know, just go to M&S, Sainsbury's. Everybody sells watercress now. Just get a bag of watercress and just eat it like crisps. You know, it's nice. Yeah. It's really good for DNA repair and everything. Avocado, vitamin E. Everybody knows vitamin E is sort of really important for fertility. Tocopherol means something to do with fertility. And red onion. So everywhere you can put red onion in anything, cooked or raw, quercetin. Very good for sperm. And it's got tomatoes in it, lycopene, spinach, lutein, peppers, beta-carotene, vitamin C, and olive oil. Very important. They've all got to have 2 tablespoons of olive oil a day. So really good extra virgin olive oil, loads of antioxidants.
Oh, I love that. Is that why it's good? Is it? And it's an antioxidant.
It's full of antioxidants, yes.
And it's actually pain. It is a little bit of a pain. Is it like a numbing pain? What would you say it was? It was almost like it felt like I had like 2 midgets hanging off my testicles for about 10 minutes. Like just literally just.
Have you had 2 midgets hanging off your testicles before?
No, I haven't. But if I did, I think that's probably what it felt. That's another podcast.
Klingons on the starboard bow. And, all that. That's a different.
There's literally like someone was just. I don't know. It felt like it was like a tugging.
I remember the paint stripper thing being injected in. I think the worst bit for me was initially like the fear of it, because I'm terrible with needles and blood and stuff like that, so I like almost wanted to pass out. But so the injection, the local anaesthetic at first was like pretty rubbish. Didn't feel anything throughout the process other than like something moving, but couldn't really put my finger on it. But for me, it was once the platinum coils were in, to obviously block off the veins, they put that paint stripper stuff in. To me, that bit was just like, that was really bad. I remember Stephen saying to me, look, it will feel like you've been kicked in the balls. It will gain in its pain,
get worse,
and then it will ease off. Yeah, and I remember him sort of saying, okay, well, I've been kicked in the balls a few times. I play football, you know, I know what to expect. But genuinely, that was one of the worst experiences I've ever had. It was weird because it was like psychologically.
We're trying to make this okay for men to go and get checks.
But I think it's good to expectations. It's actually okay to have this procedure done.
But I think what was weird for me was, I don't think it was so much the pain of it. It was the fact that like I felt like I'd been kicked in the nuts, but no one had kicked me in the nuts.
Yeah.
So my brain was like, what's going on right now? What's happening? And that was a bit weird for me. And I think perhaps that accentuated the pain more than it needed to, and the fact that you couldn't curl up in a ball because you're in this.
Do you know what? If I'd known what we know now, like what people are going to hopefully hear, I think we would have been better prepared for it.
100%. Yeah,
I think we would have been better prepared, and I think I would have been like, okay, this is that moment that they were talking about when 2 midgets are going to hang off my testicles, or when like, someone's going to kick me in the balls. Do you know what I mean? Like,
but they haven't.
But they haven't. You know,
it's going to be one of them. If you know, you know moments. I think we'll have people reach out to us on Instagram. Or
I
whatever,
hope they do, man. I hope they do, because it's like it needs to be this whole fertility, varicocele, needs to be normalized.
100%, yeah.
In the moment it's normalized, people know what to expect. You know, they'll know what surgeons are out there, where you can go, where you can get support.
Supplements are supplements. They are not, and particularly with male fertility, they're not a replacement for diet. No. And men, as you know, will sometimes be swallowing way more antioxidants than they should be swallowing. So loads. I've heard vitamin C and vitamin E are really good for sperm, and selenium. So if I take loads, then that's going to be even better. And actually, less is more.
So if there's anyone listening who's been anywhere near where I've been, or where where you've gone in, so you can't have kids, your sperm count's really low, you're in that low, it's literally been 2 years from then to now. I'm like a walking, like, example of the fact that things can change, turn around so quickly.
And what happened? This is the key
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
What happened between what happened between there and now, 17 weeks pregnant, and how did you eventually get yourself out of this hole?
All the work we've done with testhim to date is that going through fertility treatment is so isolating, isn't it? It's such a difficult thing to go through on your Todd. But you're not on your own. We are all here, and we're all here to help.
And I think, it's a bit like contagion and catching viruses. For every one apostle that you recruit, that he will get through social media to 10 others.
Yeah.
All right.
And then we've got 10.
Yeah.
And 10 times 10.
Yeah.
We just keep doing that.
So I've got a feeling that vehicle is probably as effective or more effective than almost anything.
She, bless her, she was so stressed out about all of this, like, how, whether there was progress or not. You know, when COVID, when you used to have those like thermometers and you used to put them on your forehead and you could see what someone was. Yeah. So she bought one of those, and one night she was like, I literally woke up in the middle of the night. She was under the covers with this thing on my testicles, bro. Yeah, on my testicles, like, because she was literally. She was like, "It's too hot. Your testicles are too hot. You sweat in the bed, and and then, like literally." And so every now and again, I'd come home from work, and she'd be like, "Take your jeans off. Like, just relax. Just let them just hang." And I'm like, "Babe, like it's fine." She goes, "You know what? Get them out. I'll measure them. If they're too hot, then you have to change. Then you have to put something loose on. If they're not too hot, you can wear what you want." And every time she got this thing out, they were too hot because they're meant to be 2 degrees. What kind of?
Yeah,
2 degrees lower than what you're.
That's optimal.
Yeah, body temperature.
Optimal, yeah. And obviously that never happened with me because I'm always wearing skinny jeans and I'm always stressed out with work and the house was always super hot. But it was always the right, like looking back at it now, like it was the right thing to do. Do you know what I mean? Like I should have definitely worn looser trousers. Yeah. Should have been less stressed out, and everything that she did was absolutely on point.
But there are other tests that really... Oh, it's the phone again.
Yeah, no, it's voicemail. Sorry.
And I remember lying on that theatre table, Mr. Moser with with all these instruments, and he's got all these amazing team running around everywhere.
It's awesome,
Yeah, and there's a screen there that you can kind of see half a little bit of, but you can't see too much of. Yeah. And he's like, he's put this like these. He's basically got these cables that he's running through your body, hasn't he? And it's just like and he's just looking up at it, and I said to him, we're having some quite like intimate conversations with each other whilst like I'm lying on the table and he's fully like operating on my testicles. And I was like, so how do you know like where to go? And he was like, literally, it's like the M25, mate. Like I know which exit I need to get off. I know, and like it's like he knows there, is it? No, but he knows it all off by heart. Like he knows, some people have embolization going through this through your neck, through your jugular. Some people have it going through. But he was like, I know exactly where I need to go. I know exactly how I need to get there. It's almost like, I don't know where I'm from. It's trying to get to Palmer's Green from Winchmore Hill, and if you can't go through that way, you'll go down that way. And if you can't go that way. Yeah. So he knows all of the routes.
Like a London taxi driver.
Literally, he's like a taxi driver of like testicles. Yeah.
I like that.
But actually, but it's not only varicocele that he does.
No, he does all sorts of
you could do so much stuff with the technology out there. It's unreal what you can do.
It blew my mind actually sat in that theatre, to be fair, like just how skilled he is, but all that machinery, that equipment is insane, isn't it?
It's crazy, bro. It's insane.
I think that's a perfect note to end on, don't you?
I love that. I love that.
Just go and get checked.
Go and get checked.
And get an aubergine tattoo.
Yeah. Go ahead.